Hey, welcome back, guys. As you can see from the thumbnail, you can see that I was scammed. Basically, from those of you who have been watching for a while, you know I've been waiting for my brake booster to show up. Pretty sure, turns out it never did exist. So I was scammed out of my money. Don't expect that necessarily to get my money back, but basically wanted just to say this, just so you guys aren't basically end up in the same situation as me. I hate outing people, but obviously I don't want the next person to get scammed, and this guy keeps making money off of people like that. Basically the brake, I had ordered a brake booster from Sweeting Performance. They're out of California. Typically when I order parts, I like to make sure there's phone numbers, there's customer service, there's a physical address, stuff like that. I even talked to the guy on the phone. You know, this was back in November. This was one of the first things I ordered for this truck, this engine swap basically. And at the time, you know, he said he's short-staffed. You know, this was kind of at the end of COVID. And basically he said, yeah, it'll be 6 to 8 weeks, whatever, which I was fine with because I had other stuff to do on here. And basically at the end of 6 to 8 weeks, which was basically the beginning of the year, I called him up just to see, hey, what's the status on it? Is it coming? I haven't seen anything yet. And he said, well, you know, the manufacturer has had delays in parts and supplies and stuff, so it's another 7 weeks. Well, what can I do, I guess? Just keep waiting. So another 7 weeks goes by, call him up, email him, whatever. What's going on? You know, what's the status of my brake booster? And oh, yep, you know, parts are in. It's just, but we're so far behind that it's going to be 5 weeks to assemble it, or you know, basically put it together, which kind of was weird to me. You know, why would it take that long to assemble? But if you're back ordered that much and only one guy there, you know, might take you that long. So there again, after that 5 weeks, it's like call them up, see what's going on, and nothing. And finally, all of a sudden I get an email saying, yep, it's, you know, this was just before the 4th of July. He sent an email, yep, you know, everything's here and it's getting ready to ship out. We're just wrapping it up. And basically we're closed for the 4th week, of the week of the 4th. So after, as soon as we get back, we'll ship it out, you know. And sure enough, try to get a hold of them after the 4th of July and kind of radio silence. So, you know, even before that last email that I got from him, I started to look online, see if, you know, there was any reviews or whatever on this person, on this company, and Better Business Bureau started to, or I've seen some people had made complaints, basically exact same complaints, and about the same time that I was dealing with it. You know, last year, end of last year, they were kind of doing it. So right away, I realized that, yep, I pretty much got scammed. So I tried to get a hold of them, you know, just to see if it actually was coming. I haven't seen anything yet, and like I said, now it's radio silence. So I guess what can I do about it? Get scammed, it happens. It sucks. I had to go to plan B. You know, this one here was supposed to bolt right up and be ready to go, and it doesn't exist, I'm pretty sure. Now, I have seen there was another company, Hydrotech, I believe is the name, that makes something. Now, can't speak one way or the other of these. They were quite a bit pricier than the one I purchased from Sweeting Performance, but it looks like they're legit, or it sounds like they're legit. So that's something that if you guys want to look into. But like I said, I went to plan B and ended up getting a Hydroboost off of a SN95 Mustang. So this would be like a 99 to 04 Mustang. Just ordered this off of Rock Auto, and just going to make this fit. There are some differences though. Obviously it won't bolt up necessarily. This is the plate, mounting plate that comes on it. It's not flat. It's because it's shaped to the firewall of the Mustang, I guess, or angled. So I ended up having to take that off. It's a four-sided nut, which I don't have a socket for it, so I had to use a chisel just to get it off. But I should still be easy enough to make that work. I already kind of made a pattern here that, you know, goes off the old bolt pattern there. I'm trying to get, you know, basically the alignment of the rod here in the same spot for the next one. So I'll make a plate like this cutout here is. I just got to make this hole here smaller so it fits on the end of here, because it's just that nut screws on here and tightens that up. But this hole is quite a bit bigger, so I got to make that just a little bit smaller and cut that out. Otherwise that should work for the plate. The other thing that I noticed is that the rod length basically from the plate out is maybe 3/8 inch shorter on here. So I think what I'm going to end up doing there is I'll end up cutting this in the middle here, maybe find a piece of pipe to go on the outside. I don't know if this is hollow. If it is, I might go on the inside, but otherwise I'll find a pipe that goes on the outside here and just lengthen it what I need, and then just weld it back together, just to be careful not to get too much heat on the end here, just in case there are seals and stuff here. So I should be able to get that to work, and that should be the same size hole from here to here. So I'm pretty confident that'll work. This one does have a little groove in there for that other plate. As you can see right there. I don't know if I'm going to try and make that work on here on this new tab. I'm hoping to, but it might be hard to kind of get that cut out with the tools I have. But otherwise, this should fit my master cylinder here. I do have to figure out some sort of push rod on the inside here. I was hoping maybe I could swap the one off of here. See if that stays. This is actually the push rod out of there. It's quite a bit longer. This wasn't necessarily made to come out, but I ended up pulling it out of there. See if I can use it somehow. The plunger on the end of here is a little bit different size than what goes on the inside of here. So I might just save the rod and put a different plunger or something on the end here, or somehow modify that, but at least I could have that adjustment on the end here if I need to. Otherwise, this unit here, now I've seen some of these units come with the return fitting. This would be the return. This is basically, I believe, the high pressure in from the pump, and this one would be high pressure going out that would run down to my power steering rack. And none of this came with fittings. Now if it's just because it came from Rock Auto, and this is basically a reman, but a lot of them come with the fitting right here for, that I've seen for the return. Now this one here is basically the way it looks. There's no threads in there, so I don't know if it had a pressed in pipe coming out of there for the return, but I will need to figure out a fitting for that. Basically I want to go to a -6 line. I'm going to be doing -6 for all of them. I ended up ordering a fitting kit from Power by the Hour that just should screw in to these for this brake booster, but theirs here has threads right there. I actually do have another fitting. This is a return fitting that actually come off of another Hydroboost that I had found. As you can see, it's got threads on there and should go into there, but I have to figure out how to thread that. Now, the problem with threading that is there's, you can see there's basically, to get a tap in there, to thread that you kind of have to go past the hole a little bit. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to go deep enough to make enough threads, but I found out that this valve here, let me see, I got to take that out quick. See if I can get something to, thought I only had that in there hand tight, but so I wasn't sure if this would actually come out, but it does. Just kind of a little spool valve. So nothing too real important, but that should give me enough. If you can see that in there. So it should give me enough room to get past and tap that hole. Just put a bunch of rags or something in there so all the debris doesn't get stuck inside of here. and we'll get that tapped hopefully, and then we can, you know, just screw this into there. It's like a 5/16 hole that I'll need to tap here, fine thread 5/16. Otherwise the other fitting should fit right in there, so I got that to do. But we'll kind of start off making our plate, get that hole the right size, maybe see if we can make that tab there and get it mounted. But one other thing too, let me throw this back in here. Just for the time being. But it's supposed to sit like this. And actually I've noticed some of the other Hydroboost units for the Fox body, or for the SN95, these bolts are actually turned to like that, and so is the Master Cylinder mounting holes. Obviously I can't do that, so I need to have these flat, but it's meant to kind of sit like this. But the little reservoir that's on here doesn't quite, it would fit I think, but it comes real close. I think it sits about right there. I don't want it sitting right over the top of the coil packs and the valve cover. So I have plenty of room to turn it upside down and mount it this way. It shouldn't hit the hood hinge or anything like that. The only problem that you have with flipping them like that is sometimes they're a little bit harder to bleed the air out of the system, but the way it sounds, you should just be able to. You might have to run it back and forth, or just spend a little bit more time bleeding the air out of the system before you put it to use. So we'll get started on making this plate here and see if we can get that bolted up. We'll probably put some sort of studs or bolts. Basically it's just a 3/8 bolt that goes in there, so we'll get that made, and that shouldn't be too hard. And then we'll get it in there and kind of see if we can't get that figured out. I just wanted to point this out to you guys. Now that the motor and everything is sitting in here, I decided just to see if this old brake booster would act, how it fits in here. I don't know if you can kind of see, but it just barely kind of hits that valve cover. You could, if I was to drop the motor, you know, even a half an inch or an inch, you know, down a little bit further, or move it to the left or passenger side just a little bit, I bet that would fit right in there. And you know, if you wanted to save money and reuse that same setup, but I still think going with the Hydroboost is the way to go. Creates a lot more room. You know, just to drop the motor in here, if you ever had to pull it, you would have to pull that booster out. I don't think you'd be able to sneak it out of here with that booster in here, or even to pull the valve cover, you'd have to pull that booster out in the Master Cylinder, or at least, you know, take it loose and move it over. But yeah, I just thought I'd point that out, that, man, it just about fits. I'm not sure what the diameter of this is, but there is probably just enough room. I mean, you might even be able to re-drill the holes, or make the holes just a little bit bigger on the back side of the booster and slide it over a little bit, and it would still work, you know, and still connect to the pedal and be fine. But anyway, I just thought I'd point that out to you. So it tapped pretty easy. I didn't have to drill that hole any bigger on this one. So if you have to, so if you guys have a similar setup like this without the fitting, that one did tap pretty easy. I didn't have to even drill this out any bigger. All I had to do is just run a tap through there. But one thing to watch for, if you can see it here, on the inside where that hole is, just make sure that you knock down any burrs on the inside here where the after you run a tap, because that's where the O-rings are, so that has to be nice and smooth in there. And you don't want to cut the O-rings on this fitting here when you put that in there. So just be aware of that when you do that, and make sure you get all the debris out of here so it doesn't go through the system, and get it out, and you'll be good to go. So we can put that back in there. The other thing too is just make sure that this fitting isn't too long where it runs into this other plug here. Alright, I basically had some 3/16, just some sheet steel sitting around. So I made a pattern out of here, or, you know, the pattern I showed before, and I just took the plasma cutter or torch and just cut it out. Then I drilled, you know, my 4 holes, and then you can see I ended up going with the tab there. It's basically, depending on which way you look at it, it's basically at the 3 o'clock or the 9 o'clock position. the tab to get this to sit the right way and level for the master cylinder. Yeah, I couldn't exactly use a hole saw here because that tab would have been, I wouldn't have been able to put that tab there. So I used the plasma torch to cut that as round as I could, and then just cleaned it all up, got it to fit. It's fitting pretty good right now. It's all lined up right. So it's just a matter of getting this basically painted. I also need to, you could put some regular studs in here. What's on here is actually 3/8 thread or 3/8 bolt. So you don't necessarily have to go 3/8, you can go metric I guess too, but I don't know if I'll be able to find studs today that I could just press in here, like a ribbed stud that I could press in and just leave in there. So I'll most likely have to find a just a regular 3/8 bolt, grade 8, and then I'll just tack weld it in there. There's room with the plate. Well, let's get this out of here once. Show you quick, but there is room for the bolt head to be, as you can see. So it's going to be flush and tight, real tight to the back here, but there's plenty of room on both sides where the bolt head can stick out and it'll be fine. But so with that level about right there, and we have our plate, and then we just put that nut on there, and then we'll have to worry, you know, next step would be to worry about this, extending this out a little bit, that'll work. I also want to show you guys, I don't know if you've ever had these bolts out before. This one here actually came with just one bolt in there. This is the bolt right here. But as you can see, it actually has, at the top by the head, it's got reverse thread. It's bigger. And then the bottom has right-handed thread. So right-handed and left-handed thread on the same bolt. And they just bolt in from the back side. I was trying to figure out, I was trying to find a bolt that would bolt in the opposite side. Actually sat here. This one had the bolt in it. This one was missing. So I was trying to find something here, and everything I put in there wasn't working well. Yeah, I didn't realize that it was left-hand thread. You don't necessarily have to have this style bolt. It's kind of nice to have what's in there, but you're probably not going to find these at your regular hardware store. So I was able to actually rob these off of the other Hydroboosts that I had robbed this fitting off. So I just kind of lucked out that they both fit in there. And but these are going to be metric, not 3/8, so I just have to find nuts for there because my other ones don't fit on there. But yeah, just so you know, that's kind of what they look like. They're a little weird, but they work. So while I wait for paint to dry on the plate that I just made, I'm going to try and lengthen this rod here. You can see I already cut it off. I basically measured, you know, once the plate is on here, from the back side of the plate out, I need to be 5 9/16 from here basically to the center of the pin is 5 9/16 off of here. So I need to make it from my plate, the back side of the plate, out this far, 5 9/16. What I'm actually at with this one is 4 7/8. So I need to lengthen it 11/16 basically. So what I'm doing is, I wasn't sure if this was hollow or not. It's solid. I cut that, and I figured I would just take this at first, put a piece of pipe or something there and just lengthen it a little bit. But I think what I might do is I'm just going to cut this one to the right with the added length on it, and I'll just butt it up against there and weld it. But I did happen to find this little spacer or a piece of pipe that I had. This is 3/8 rod, same with the other one, and this just happens to be 3/8 ID. So it slides over there. That'll help get it centered and squared. This won't. It's a little bulky, but it shouldn't get in the way of anything under there. There should be plenty of room for this clearance. So I'm just going to put that on there and weld the two together. So we'll weld the spacer in there and just leave it. So we'll get this one cut off here, and we'll add it on. We'll double check our measurement, and we should be good. All right, I got the fitting tapped here. My bracket is made and put on. I even got some paint on it. You can see I got the 4 bolts. I just have them tack welded or welded on there, so that fits. I have my push rod lengthened and kind of cleaned up a little bit. As far as the push rod, I mean, that's more or less just setting where the pedal sits inside. So if you want it to be in a different position, you know, you can lengthen or shorten this up more than what it was, but just make sure that you have enough pedal throw so you have full travel in the brake booster here. So that's going to relate to, you know, going into the master cylinder itself. So you don't want to make it too short where it doesn't have enough travel on it. But next I'm actually going to make a quick little gasket. I got some gasket material here. This is what actually sat here, kind of between the firewall and the brake booster. This one's kind of just beat up, and I don't know if I want to go with this plastic. So I'm just going to make a quick pattern and just put a gasket here just to kind of help seal up any water or whatever, just dust and dirt between the cab and the outside here. So we'll do that quick, and then the next step here is I'm going to try and figure out the push rod in between here. Kind of see. So this one I can either go with like it's kind of a piston in there or a hole. You know, do I want to go kind of wide like this is on the end here? This is too big, so it doesn't fit in that hole in there. Or do I just go with a solid rod and then get rid of the end here? And because there is kind of a little spot kind of drilled, if you can kind of see that there on the center of that piston there. I could just try and get it to fit right in there. I'd kind of like it to be wider, just in case that would ever kind of fall out of that drilled hole in there. But I'll see what I'm going to end up doing here. So I'll have to try and measure this. There's, you know, no way once this is together to see if how much distance is in there, if there's play or whatever. You know, this has, I'm going to try and reuse this best I can, but this is adjustable here at the end. And so I'll try to utilize that. But I'm just going to have to measure from the center of there out to the flange here. And then being this one kind of sticks out from the flange, I have to kind of measure out and then measure in just to see what my distance is going to be, and then make up a rod that goes in there with just a slight bit of clearance, but not loose enough where it's going to bounce around in there. So, but we'll get the gasket made quick, and then we'll move on to that rod there. All right, figured out that my rod needs to be about 4.5 inches long. I basically just cut it off this one, and what I'm going to use this spacer here. It actually worked out perfect. The bore size in there is 1 inch, and this spacer is 1 inch on the outside diameter, and the inside is actually 3/8, so it worked out perfect where this rod is 3/8. So I'm just going to weld that onto there. You don't necessarily have to do that spacer, but when I measured it, you got to be careful to measure, because the inside there, it's kind of cone shaped. So I had measured from the outside edges of that cone in there, and it was about 4.5. So it's actually a little bit longer to the dead center of it. But actually, if you ever wanted to, I suppose you could even tap this somehow and put an adjustable bolt on both ends. But so what I'm going to do there is weld that just to the edge like that, and then I'll have adjustment to come out or in a little bit, and should work pretty good. So we'll get that tack welded, tested it, and see what happens next. All right, so I got the rod all welded up and made. I'll put a little paint on there probably just to keep it from rusting, but should work pretty good. You will have to do a little bit of arithmetic, a little adding and subtracting to figure out, you know, the exact length you need. The other option is to go ahead and extend that rod out if it's adjustable for you. Extend it out and then put your master cylinder on there, and let's see if I can do this. So if it's too long, it's going to bottom out and you'll feel that the plunger is moving. It'll bottom out and give you a little bit of a gap like that, and then just basically take the rod and keep turning it in until it gets closer and closer, and then basically it's touching, and then you can have just another turn or so in, and that should give you just a little bit of clearance. So it's just kind of a little way of making sure this rod is the right length. And you might even be able to tell too if it's too short. When you step on the pedal, you might feel that you're pushing it and nothing's really happening, then all of a sudden it does, or you might feel some play in there. So, but I think I got this set to the right length that I need it, so we can get that bolted up and actually put in the truck now. So I had ordered a kit from Power by the Hour for these fittings here. The 3 fittings. They sell a kit that's basically made for the 99 to 04 Mustang that, you know, converts from the Hydroboost. Well, they already have Hydroboost, but they convert the fittings to a -6 line if you want. So that's what I wanted to go with. So I bought that kit. These 2 fittings are the only ones that fit. This one here did not. So I don't know if it's that I got just a slightly different Hydroboost here, or you know why that is. But basically this one here is a 16 millimeter by 1.5 is the threads on here, and it's, for one, it's too small for that port, and it's also too long. Where this one is an 18, this fitting here. So this is an 18 millimeter by 1.5 thread. This is a 16, which is supposed to go here, but these 2 are actually the same on mine. So both of these are 18 millimeter, 1.5. This one fit fine. The threads, I was a little bit worried that maybe the threads on the inside were going to bottom out and hit this pipe here, or this fitting here, but it doesn't. It's a little bit, it's short enough where I didn't have to cut it short or anything like that, so that'll work fine. Obviously you don't want that to bottom out in there and then plug off any return line. So basically you have, this is the line that comes from the pump to here, and then this is more high pressure going out. This will run down to the rack and pinion steering, and then this is a return line. So I will have to tie this return line in with the power steering rack return line, and that goes back to the pump. But so what I did is I ended up just buying a different fitting. It had the straight thread on there and the -6 on the other end. It was a little bit longer than I needed to, so I had to cut off just a couple threads, but otherwise that fits right in there. So just got to screw that in, and then basically I'll be able to put that in the truck. Now all this will be upside down, just have it sitting this way on the bench here. So, all right, I'm already running into issues. I got the Hydroboost bolted up to the firewall, but didn't quite, I guess, realize that they were going to be this close. I was hoping I'll be able to get a 90 in here, but these fittings are pretty close to the valve cover. This one I can get a 90 on there and get it started like that. And if we get it tight, we do have a little bit of room there. The other one though, is just a little bit of a ridge right here on the valve cover that I can't quite get it started. It's angled just a little bit where I can't get started. Once it's on there it would clear, but I can't get started, so either I'd have to massage this a little bit, which I don't really want to do, but I'm going to see if I can't find, I think I had seen some 90-degree fittings that will go on these spots too. So we'll have to order parts, I guess, and see if we can't find some 90s to go in here, and that way they can kind of shoot down this way, or you know, straight this way. But problem number one we'll have to get figured out here. I should have my fitting dilemma here figured out now. I found out that Classic Performance sells a banjo style fitting kit for power steering. Basically it's going to be similar to this Power by the Hour setup, where it comes with 18 millimeter and 16 millimeter and a 5/16 basically fitting, but being, for some reason, mine has got 18 millimeter on both of these. This one I'll reuse, but this one, these two, is where the banjo, hopefully the banjo style fitting will go, and then I can kind of turn them whichever way I want. If you guys know what a banjo fitting is, it's very easy to just point it whichever direction you want, so I can kind of face them away, and I should have plenty of clearance then on the valve covers, and it should work good. So as we're waiting for those fittings to show up, I should be able to I guess, bolt on my, let me get this light out of the way. It'll stay. So in the meantime, I can bolt up my master cylinder here, probably start running my brake lines, get those mocked up. I can somewhat kind of figure out how I want to run the power steering lines or the hydraulic lines to the brake booster. Been kind of trying to figure out how I want to do that because there's not a real clean way to run it from here over there. So I'll probably end up running down and shooting across somehow, and then running along the frame rail and then just straight up. So I don't know if I should put the inner fender back in here to kind of figure out where that's going to sit and run it along there somehow. But I think I'll do the brake lines first. We'll get, like I said, get the master cylinder mounted up. I want to take the, I got the line lock here. They got to mount up yet. I think what I'm going to do there is actually, I kind of want to mount it right in this area, or just behind these lines back here on the frame, and then I can run, you know, get that run up to the master cylinder, and then I can run the line over here. I already have the line made up that runs from both, you know, each side of the fronts here. You know, I got the ones going to the calipers themselves, but then I made up a line that runs down along the front cross member there into the other side. So we'll get, I think we'll do the line lock here, get that mounted, make up some brake lines there, and then we can kind of see what I want to do as far as coming up to the master cylinder here, how I'm going to run them. Because I still have to make one that runs down to the back also. I might be able to reuse the old one. I might just be able to kind of straighten it out in a few spots and it'll work fine yet. But being this is a little bit closer to where that master cylinder sits, you know, I might just have to rebend a new one up. So, all right, I got the line lock mounted up here. I got a brake line made from here to there. Also have the brake lines running up to the master cylinder, and the master cylinder is mounted here. Turned out pretty good, I guess, but I maybe should have waited to make the brake lines, just because I'm starting to mount my power steering lines and my hydraulic lines for the brake booster. And the way I want to turn these fittings, their brake lines are going to be right in the way, so I might end up tweaking these brake lines down just a little bit. We'll see here. I did order different fittings here. So these are the banjo fittings that I got off of Summit Racing. They're made by Classic Performance, or sold by them. It actually comes with 3 fittings. I'll get the other ones in the truck right now, but we have 18 millimeter, 16 millimeter, and then the other one's 5/16. I didn't think they were going to be quite this bulky, but I'm thinking they're going to work. We'll give it a shot anyway. I only need 2 of them. But you can see I have one already installed here. I can, you know, swivel it either way. I'd like to go kind of straight back, but then I can't get the hose to screw onto there, so I kind of have to come down or go up, or try and turn it at a little bit of an angle if I can tighten it up. So you can see I have the one hose here already mounted. This is the pressure side coming from the pump, and I'm going to run it on top of the inner fender, and I want to do all 3 of them kind of to come down and just below the front of the frame here. So it'd be nice to come off of each one of these fittings and kind of run them forward or along with each other. So I'll have to, I think it'll work if I put a 45 or something on here, hose end, and I should be able to screw it on. Then I'll have to hook up that other one, but I hope that other fitting here, that banjo fitting, isn't too bulky for this. Then we can get that mounted there too. So I didn't think this was actually going to happen, but I have to make a correction to my video already. Basically, I know at the beginning of the video I said I was pretty sure I got scammed. Well, part actually showed up while I was making this video. I was as shocked as anyone else, I guess. I'll show you here. This is the actual unit that Sweeting Performance sent to me. I don't know if it was the constant braiding and getting hold of authorities and stuff like that, trying to see if you know, if they're scamming me or what. I had actually contacted the Attorney General's office in California and also the Better Business Bureau just to see if, you know, they could put a little pressure on them, figure out what was going on. But honestly, I'm actually impressed by this unit. You know, I guess buyer beware at this point. You know, it took them 8-9 months to get me this thing at customer service. I mean, he constantly was coming up with excuses why it wasn't here yet, and no, another 4 or 5 weeks and whatnot. So I don't know if I want to necessarily recommend them now or not. This is a very nice unit. I still have the one installed in the truck. This is the one I got off of Rock Auto. This is the one I had to kind of modify a little bit. Had this one shown up on time, I wouldn't have probably had to do anything but throw it in. This one actually has looks like the proper spacing bolt hole pattern for the truck, for the Ranger. I think this plate would have needed to be flipped upward. So I don't know if that little tab is in that groove on the side or not, but it looks like a nice unit. It's got both bolts here, which mine only had one at the time. It does come with the return fitting on here. Mine didn't have that, but it does have, appears to be the 18, the 16 millimeter, and then the return line here. So that would have saved me a little time of trying to find fittings. It also has an adjustment adjustment rod, I should say, there for the brake pedal. It also comes with 2 different style eyelets or, you know, adjustments for that would go on there. Oops. So I think either one would fit on there. Would have saved me from having to weld mine on there. So, like I said, I am actually impressed. This looks like a very nice unit. I plan on just leaving the one that's on there right now, and we'll see how it works. If I don't like it, I'll probably throw that one on. But so far, I mean, I kind of have everything plumbed up right now as far as the brake lines, and I don't want to take the master cylinder back off to get that off. I'm pretty sure I have my hoses figured out. I've kind of had this inner fender on and off a little bit here, trying to figure out where I'm going to route this. I thought I was going to go down to the frame, but I think I'm just going to go over the top like this. I do have, I don't know if you can see my fittings there. They kind of all angle this way, so I had to get some 45s and kind of shoot through there. So hopefully that works. Still don't have them totally finished up yet. I just kind of have them routed down underneath the frame rail down here. I have to run, you can see the ones right here is not hooked up yet. That one is my return line, so that's got to shoot straight over back to the rack and pinion. So I have to hook up that, and then it also has to shoot this way over to this return fitting here. And then also I have the other hose here that runs to the rack. I have to hook that up, I have to cut that, put the fitting on there. That's the pressure side to the power steering rack. Otherwise I have the pump one, the line from the pump here going over to the Hydroboost. That one is hooked up, ready to go. So just a couple more hoses to hook up here. So I'll finish that up quick and we'll be on our way, I guess. There we are, line's all made up. You can kind of see the other two running to the other side over there. And then right here is the return. I'll have to put some power steering fluid in there. But otherwise the lines are all made up. You can see a little bit now that I got the inner fender out, how my lines kind of run in here. And then just down and around. But yeah, everything is coming together here. So as far as I can think of, that's pretty much everything that we need to get done before we can start this thing up. Next video will most likely be first fire up. I do have to get coolant and, like I said, power steering, that sort of thing, kind of double check over everything that I did there. Kind of nervous, excited about that, because you know, anything could happen on first fire up. Thing could burn to the ground or who knows what, but we're gonna get this thing fired up probably next time. And you know, as far as that Hydroboost over there, it's just one of them deals where, man, you order it and it should never take that long to get that sort of thing, even if they are behind, you know. And I hated to kind of start off the video like that, you know, outing them, but you know, I didn't want anyone else going through that sort of deal if they were scamming me. But now I have 2 Hydroboosts, I guess, so I got a backup if this one for some reason doesn't work or fails. But we'll try this one, see how it does. I do have everything as far as the brakes are bled too, no leaks there, so that's good to go. So yeah, stick around guys, because next video here should be first fire up, and we'll see what this thing will do or what it sounds like, so stay tuned. All right, see you later.